I was about to cry at certain points, and I was like, is this too soon to cry?
Only time I cried is when...
Loki died.
No, I saw that come. Then he said he was Odin's son. I was like, oh, you're dead.
When Thor got his eye back? Is that when you cried?
No, I legitimately cried when you're... when... I hate you so much.
Hello people, I'm Jaby Koay, joined by Courtney Wright, ACHARA KIRK, and MORIAH Garcia. We're gonna talk about Avengers Infinity War. This is a spoiler discussion. If you haven't seen the movie, I strongly recommend you don't watch this video until you have, because we're gonna go right into it. Vision sucked.
Yeah, what was up with Vision?
I'm like, why?
He was just being a really emo guy. Like, he's just discovering feelings. You know what I mean?
I like his character, don't get me wrong. I think his character is awesome. I've always thought his character was awesome. I was just wondering why he wasn't a stronger person in this movie.
Because he's in love. He's discovered.
No. That's what's weakening him the whole movie?
No, he has someone to lose. Number one, he has his humanity because he's evolving. Now he's fallen in love with someone and he doesn't want to lose that.
How does that stop him from fighting?
Yeah, how does that stop him from having any superpowers?
He got stabbed right out of the blocks. He didn't even see that coming.
Come on now.
But that's another problem. Your sensors, I mean, you're freaking Jarvis. How do you not know that there's like stuff happening in the wind coming for you?
I don't want to like start this off on a bad foot. I want to start off with saying that I thoroughly enjoyed Avengers Infinity War. We all did.
Yeah. We did.
Right? Naturally, with a spoiler discussion, some negative feelings are gonna come out that we didn't get to talk about in the spoiler-free discussion. Please know in advance that we really like this movie. Anything negative expressed in this is not saying that we dislike the film. We're just talking about-
passionate.
You're just passionate lovers of the movies things.
Of Marvel.
Moving pictures.
All things.
The flickers.
The flickers. It's not legit in the flickers.
I'm gonna reiterate something. Like, going into this, I had a concern that this film was gonna be like kind of all over the place because you're dealing with such a huge cast of people that it's just naturally it's gonna go all over the place. But one of the things that a friend told me a while back was like with Avengers, the first one, his statement was the fact that that film worked on any level whatsoever is remarkable. You had so many different people that you were bringing together, all these huge characters. Obviously, this has well beyond up the ante. And I think that they managed to find a way to, for the most part, balance it out between all the different people. It's a huge undertaking. I enjoyed it, and there was a lot of humor.
You see it all over the place. Are you talking about like?
It's just not a movie that you're used to watching. Like, let's take Wonder Woman, for instance, right? You have one character, you're following her adventure straight through. And it's like you can see the beginning, middle, and end. And like we were talking about right after the film, this drops you right in the middle of the second act. Because the first act kind of happened at the end of Thor Ragnarok.
It does. Out of the blocks, it just literally starts off where Thor Ragnarok left off.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a little jarring. My brain had to acclimate to like, where am I right now? Like, what just happened? Having that momentum going in, I felt like I had to catch up. It's like being on a roller coaster. Instead of getting that like tick, 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 it was just like, boom, it just dropped.
Right.
I think that's why as well, like, even though I really love Loki, because he went so quickly in the beginning, I was just like, whoa, what just, wow. Can you give me a second to like feel for him?
It was like Johnny Cage dying at the beginning of Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh my goodness. It was a beautiful moment, speaking about Loki, because we have seen him have this like back and forth kind of arc, and you know, you don't really know how he feels about his brother.
Where his loyalties are.
Where his loyalties are.
The movie was 2.5 hours, so I know that a lot was cut. A lot was left on the editing room floor. I hope that they release a long version of this. I'm wondering if there's a longer version of the opening that they just dropped in favor of just getting us into the action as quickly as possible because there's so much story to tell.
Probably because we came in after whatever happened to that ship.
Part of the reason I was expressing like that kind of feeling of going all over the place, I think is because like normally when you get a film of this scale, remotely of this scale, it's like Lord of the Rings and you have 3 installments. A very clear beginning of where this is all starting off, and then your middle story and your end story. But here, the first story is all the previous films. That's your first act, so to speak. Then, like, here's the middle story.
It's literally like a moving Marvel comic book because you have, like, Iron Man 3, Spider-Man 47. You have to know the through line between all of those to bring you to this one Infinity War graphic novel. In essence, you're right. You're absolutely right about it. For me, the way I feel, you can't think about it in terms of like a traditional sequel and, you know, finale.
I was almost like kind of anxious going into it because I wasn't sure if like knowing how all the characters are going to be in this, I was kind of stressed of like, oh, is this going to be too much? In actuality, when I'm seeing the film, it wasn't as chaotic as what I presumed it would be.
They gave each character these little moments throughout, including like Rocket. Like he had these little kind of intimate moments.
Rocket. He and Thor had a really great relationship.
Groot is, even though he is the quietest character in the film, he managed to have an arc himself.
Yeah.
He did.
Like, he was kind of that, you know, angry, teenage, angsty kid.
Yeah.
And at the end, he realized, oh shit, I gotta like self-sacrifice here in order for this to move forward so that we don't die. And so he's, you know, he cut off his own arm so that Thor could
he's
have
like,
an axe.
I see my role. It's that moment of that every kind of teen goes through when you're like, oh wow, I can do something. I can join in. I can help.
I think what was really beautiful was to see the relations between everyone. Those relationships is what helped tied everything together. When you have all these characters and they're such individual selves, the relationships that they had with each other, whether like they had very contrasting characteristics or similar, that was what was beautiful, was to see that unity and that connection that they all developed.
Speaking of connection, I think like the story itself, the writers did a really good job of just connecting all the puzzle pieces really well for us. I didn't really feel lost.
I did miss Ant-Man.
Yeah, obviously.
I was wondering.
He and Hawkeye. I promise you he was in that little run through in the trailer. And then he wasn't there.
I think your brain put that in there. I want to put the cart before the horse a little bit here. The ending. Like, can we just talk about that for a second? When he snaps his fingers, when all the characters started like dying off, I was like, oh my God, this is it. Who are they killing? I had no idea who was gonna go, but the one that shocked me and hurt me the most, I think, was Black Panther.
Right.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, that one wrecked me.
Oh my
because
God.
because like they did it so well in a very unassuming way, where he comes and helps the girl up, and then the way that these characters died isn't dramatic. It was like it was so quick.
That you don't even have time to
Process,
it.
yeah.
I thought for sure it was gonna be Okoye.
Yeah, me too.
And the way that their arms were blending together, you didn't know which one it was until it just became clear that it was T'Challa. And I was like, no.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm gonna cry.
Another one that hurt me was Spider-Man.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I don't want to go, I don't want to die. And I'm like, shit.
But it also, it speaks to the beginning of the film, the beautiful arc that Tony Stark had with that character, because he'd always had kind of like a paternal bond with him.
Yes.
Exactly. And to lose him, I almost felt like the guilt that I thought that Iron Man would have.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this wasn't for him, he's just a kid. This wasn't for him to be here.
But it didn't matter,
and then
though.
He lost him.
Yeah,
was
whether
random.
he was there or not, he would have died.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I was really furious with Star-Lord.
Yeah, I was like,
I wanted to stab him.
Yeah.
And
When he
I've
bopped
never
him-
hated Peter Quill so much.
you know what's gonna happen if you hit him in the head. They're trying to get the glove off. This is going to decide the
And it
fate
was
of everybody.
legitimately almost off.
Yeah.
Yes! I mean, I think that's what made me more upset, is like, it was this close
It
to
was
being
this
off.
close.
And because you got your, like, I understand your feelings are hurt, your Betty died, but like, come on, dude, it was like, it was so
Would have
close.
wanted you to hold on.
She would have, because she asked you to do something and you didn't do it.
He just felt like an in-the-way character in this film. Did he add
Kinda
anything?
did.
Like,
he didn't. He fudged everything up.
he just needed to not be there and everything would have been just fine.
I'm like, if I could have transplanted either Hawkeye or Ant-Man for Star-Lord,
Yeah.
I would have done that. I was irritated by him.
Yeah.
I mean, he did bring out, comedic humor. His bit with Thor was really funny. It was super cute.
I think that's one of
However,
my favorite scenes.
Rabbit!
It was.
Rabbit! Help me! Good luck, morons!
And you know what's really funny is that, like, Rocket is usually so, like, macho and, like, standing up for himself, but he never once corrected Thor.
Yeah.
He looked
Right.
kind of cross-eyed and was like, whatever. But I think he genuinely had a respect for Thor.
And speaking of Thor, I really appreciated that they kept that kind of cute, fun, funny, humorous Thor from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And not like super serious Thor.
When he got into his, like, I'm serious, like, the Thor, the Dark World,
Thunder,
when
yeah.
he had his little girlfriend. It's going back to the girlfriends. Like, Natalie Portman, he was just like, I need to save you, Jane. Same with the Vision.
Right.
Get a girlfriend, you just go crazy.
Okay, can we go back to that for a hot second? Okay, Vision like upset me, and I didn't have a clear understanding as to why. Like, he got stabbed in the stomach once. You can still fight, man. Like, you still got some kind of power, right? Like, you took down buildings in Civil War. Like, can't you do anything here? It's like that stone did absolutely nothing for him other than get him killed. That's what it
He
felt
didn't
like.
He didn't use it.
Why?
And that was my. We're sharing the same thing. I'm a little bit upset. It's like not using your hands in a fight and just like I can with my shoulders. Like what? No, like stop it.
My favorite villain of Thanos' family was the guy with the long face and the weird like turtle mouth. He was able to. Yeah, from the beginning.
Squidward.
Yeah,
right.
That dude was so dope. That guy was so crazy dope. His powers were basically telekinesis, but he used it in such a way that was like he was able to use objects and wrap people up and then like turn things into. I'm like, damn, this guy. How are you taking him down? And like, he get ejected into space. I'm like, oh, okay, that killed him. That was a little bit anticlimactic for me. I'm like, I thought he was gonna come back, into the ship and there's gonna be more fighting. When Scarlet Witch came out onto the battlefield and just started chucking things, I was asking myself, like, why the hell didn't she come out sooner? And then the character on the screen.
Koay was like, why has she been upstairs this whole time? That was the best line ever.
She asked exactly what we're feeling. I thought.
Well, I thought she was there to protect Vision, and as soon as she came down,
yeah, she was.
She was there to destroy the stone.
I thought there was a lot of great emotional moments, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, like when Thor shows up, with his axe and whatnot, everyone in the theater just lost their mind. There were so many cool, joyous moments like that.
Marvel has really struggled with having some really great villains in the past. One of the things about being a great villain is you have to be someone that really believes in your cause. And that's what Thanos has in this. And then he also has that kind of glimmer of humanity as well with his love for Gamora, which no one else thought that he was capable. Josh Brolin did a really great job at playing Thanos and giving him those layers and that gravitas. I almost agreed with him.
No, you can definitely see where he's coming from.
Well, you can see where he's coming from. Like, they gave him a life and a story, and he explained his reasonings for like why he's doing this and why he believes so passionately. He doesn't see himself as a tyrant or the Mad Titan.
His argument of fighting against scarcity is one that we can easily understand. I mean, we're kind of dealing with that in the modern age, even though we shouldn't. There are lots of people who are starving in the world, and it's like resources will eventually run out and Earth will not be habitable anymore. We're growing at an exponential rate. Well, so when he says, you have to kill off half of them in order for the species to continue on, I'm like, I hate that you're right. I hate that what you're saying makes sense.
Morality question.
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to, especially Tony Stark has a conversation between he and Doctor Strange, and it goes back to talking about morality and the idea of it. And it's like, who makes you the god, the ruler who should decide who should die and who should live?
I think they did a pretty good job of that moment when he decides to sacrifice Gamora. I just wish this is going to sound stupid probably, but I wish they dragged it out a little bit more.
Because it seemed like it was without question.
Yeah, because he obviously was feeling it. You could see the contemplation in his eyes. But I wanted a moment where he was holding her and he couldn't quite decide what he should do. Yeah. And then he decides to go through with it. And I wanted to see a little bit more deliberation.
Because he was so quick with that, then you question the tears. You're like, well, I don't know, it didn't seem like that big of a factor.
Well, there was some kind of spiritual aspect. Right. There was some kind of spiritual aspect there that it decided. It knew, whatever this thing was, knew that he felt some kind of pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely did, because it goes back to his belief in the cause.
I so thought Tony Stark was going to die.
I really did. I
thought it was a wrap.
I thought Tony Stark and Captain America was going to go, and neither one of them. Yeah, but they both made it.
You see the look in Tony's face when he's got the thing in his stomach. I'm like, oh my God, really? Is this really going to happen?
Everybody's talking about Chris Evans, he's done, that's the...
I thought he was going for sure.
I thought he was too. And then they took the only two options because in the comics you have Sam Wilson, who's also been Captain America, and Bucky Barnes, who's also been Captain America. And you took them both out. Yeah. So now what are we left with?
I think they did that on purpose to surprise us. Because everybody was expecting... I'm pretty sure that... Because they were talking about how even the actors didn't have a full script when they were shooting. They had these kind of dummy pages just to fill in the blanks. But I'm pretty sure that there were alternate endings that were shot. I'm pretty sure there's an ending out there with Tony Stark dying, with Captain America dying. The filmmakers knew who they were going to go with, but they shot the different versions to avoid... even that moment when Black Panther picks her up, and he's the one that goes. I'm pretty sure there's a version where she goes.
What was up with Hulk? Just
Hulk's having a temper tantrum.
Let's talk about that for a second. That was the big visual effect thing that bothered me. Yeah. Because you got this moment at the end with the survivors of the Avengers, right? And it's really sad and upsetting. And you got Hulk in the background, Mark Ruffalo in his jumbo Iron Man costume.
In
Hulkbuster. I'm like, what's this? He looks so weird. Yeah. It was his expression also that made it worse. Of him, he wasn't sure what shot he was in. That was what it felt like. He's like, oh.
It's they probably pulled that particular version of him from another shot. So you probably called it.
Yeah. I thought they pulled it from Aldo Jones's weird trailer.
That's what it felt like. It literally felt like that.
Can we talk just about him and not wanting to transition?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that.
The Hulk
got scared.
The Hulk got scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got his ass handed to him by Thanos, and he's like, nah, I'm good.
Nah. You're on your own.
It could just be with all the CG that they had going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like, okay, let's just leave out the hoe.
Yeah.
Save a little bit of money. At least we showed him at the beginning.
Yeah.
We should get points for that.
Yeah. The way Hulk was tossed over by Thanos at the beginning of the movie, it reminded me of when Hulk smashed Loki, at the end of Avengers. He got flipped like the way he usually does people. That really does a good job of establishing just Thanos' strength.
Yeah.
If I sit here long enough, I'm invisible.
Yeah, Drax was amazing. He was so funny.
They brought him back in a strong way because in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it was too much.
Yes.
And here it was just enough. I don't know if that was a byproduct of him just like so many characters being in the movie, or they just did a better job with him in general. It might be a little bit of both. What's amazing to me though is that the post-credits sequence, a lot of people will still walk out when the credits, like even in our press screening.
Even in our press screening, I'm
Yeah,
like,
people
have
walk
you
out.
not learned?
Have you not been to these before?
Really? What were you doing?
Yeah.
It just makes me want to yell at people like, are
Yeah.
you stupid? Do you just not care?
Sit the fuck down.
Because,
Sit down.
Yeah, sit down. Like, what are you doing? First of all, you're standing up and I'm trying to see. And then you're going to be telling your friend, like, oh, there was something at the end.
One thing that I did really like about this, I didn't see coming, was the role Peter Dinklage had.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really cool.
Okay.
I'm just such a big fan of him, and I like that it was someone that was outside of the Marvel world that you just wouldn't expect to come. Like when entering the film, you're like, I wonder if the so and so is going to make an appearance.
I think the character was needed in order to move the story forward. I just don't know how I felt about Peter Dinklage's performance. It felt a
did you
little
really
bit hammed on. It was like a little bit.
Do you think it was his performance specifically, or do you think it was what he was given to work with?
For me, it was his performance. I
It was
think.
Tyrion Lannister in...
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like that. I mean,
it did feel like that.
It felt a little bit just kind of goofy, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe if I watch it a second time, I won't give a damn about that. Did that eye ever do anything? Like he popped an eye into his head. Did it ever?
it was a different color.
It was a different color.
Yeah.
But he could actually see.
Yeah.
Okay, because he said it wasn't working.
Funny.
No, he said it was
he
the
said
dark.
it just had to like calibrate. But I think that's funny. That's the eye. Isn't that the eye that he stole in the first Guardians of the Galaxy that he's legitimately been holding on to for like 2 movies?
Yeah, I think it is.
Rocket?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He stole that in the first film. He was like, "Why'd you steal that guy's eye?" He's like, "I don't know. I just did."
Yeah.
Yeah. Same way he stole somebody's leg. Yeah, he stole somebody's leg in
Kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
He just steals stuff.
He just
wherever
steals
he
stuff.
goes.
Yeah.
That little rabbit.
He's a
I
Winona-
love that
Winona
he
Ryder.
came back.
I loved that moment where Bucky picks him up and is shooting
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
That was
And
amazing.
then that was, and then
cute.
Bucky's like, "How much for the gun?" He's like, "It's not for sale. How much for the arm?"
Yeah.
And Bucky just walks away. That was amazing.
You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Please make sure to follow Moriah, Courtney, and Achara on the social media. Me too, if you like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Obviously, you've watched the film if you're watching this video. We'd love to hear what you guys thought of it. And that's it. Yes. Okay. Awkward ending, as always. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
Right, Garcia.
And
Courtney, right?
ACHARA KIRK.
peace out.